the meaning of life is that there's meaning in life, in living, in telling a story, in building a business, in sacrifice. Greg Clement here, and I have a super interesting guest today on the show, Galen Marten. And he's actually super interesting because he does a lot of different things, but one of his main jobs is he's part of the team here at Real Flow and Lead Flow, and he's a cinematographer, he's a filmmaker, and he's typically the guy behind the scenes. But you've been working with us for how long now?
April will be 8 years.
So 8 years. So 8 years ago, you started working, and we hired you initially to basically run our video department.
Right.
And so all the video content that we would have to create, the training, the education, the how-to, how to use our software, how to make more money with less effort as a real estate investor. You were the guy behind the scenes, right? And from day one, right, when you press record, we'd create a certain amount of content, right, each day or each week. And then you'd go into the edit room and you'd re-listen to that content over and over and over.
Over and over. I chop it up, and I'm starting to, just through almost osmosis, starting to take it all in. I'm realizing I'm getting an amazing education in how real estate works.
Yeah. And that is interesting because you weren't like, we were paying you to edit the footage, but you were learning from some of the country's best investors.
For sure. In
all asset classes, in wholesaling and rehabbing and commercial and apartments. So I really wanted to just talk about you today because you're an interesting case study because you're a product of the product.
100%.
And like you've learned this, but you've also applied it. Like they say knowledge is power, but really applied knowledge is power. It's not just the wisdom. You have to apply the wisdom. You have to take action.
Well, I always felt like I had a huge advantage because I befriended a lot of those investors, including yourself. So a major problem comes up, a big roadblock comes up, and my solution was just a phone call away.
Yeah.
So that was an incredible advantage. But I will say just the education that I got from making those videos gave me the foundation to know I could do it. Mm-hmm. But it didn't stop. But I still had to take that leap.
Yeah.
Be willing to go into my first real estate deal.
Yeah. You had to start.
That was the scariest thing.
Get rid of the fear.
And I think that overcoming that fear, was the number one hardest thing that I did.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that why in a second because you flipped some properties, but really in Northeast Ohio, which is where we live and work, our businesses, you've done a lot of Airbnbs. You focused on short-term rentals, and I think because of the cash flow. So I want to talk about one specific deal in a second. Okay. But let's start with who you are. So today we're going to go over the who, what, where, when, why, and how someone gets into real estate, builds a successful business, produces cash flow, achieves some level of financial freedom, and then how that impacts the rest of their life. So let's first start with sort of who you are.
As a person that is pretty artistic, as a creative. And I started out really going after acting, and then I moved into music, and acting and music kind of were juggling for me. Photography became interesting to me.
So in your 20s? Or?
Yeah, I'm very much in my 20s, living in Austin, Texas. I basically lived like a millionaire already because I bartended, for a few days a week, then played shows or acted in plays or did short films for students. And it was like this great time in my life.
Yeah.
But I still came out of it with basically nothing to show for it. I went to acting school, I went to music school, but I didn't really finish what I started. I kind of just bounced around a lot, unfocused. But I moved home when I was about 28, met my wife, got married relatively quickly. She was from Poland and visiting the area, and so I begged her to marry me. I married up, guys. Greg likes to tell me that often.
Yeah. How much did you have to beg?
A lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of letters that she still brings up. She brings out letters. Remember you said this? I don't know what you're talking about. But the thing is that was great about that was that I was cultivating a lot of different talents and not realizing it. Like I may have been a jack of all trades, but I actually did master a few things. And I was able to come home and start my own videography, photography, and DJ wedding focused business. And then we built that up to a very successful wedding business. We were doing a lot of weddings every year, but I wasn't satisfied. I felt completely miserable, to be honest with you. If I had to go shoot another wedding or run another thing or shoot another rap video or another local commercial, I was going to probably just jump off the end of the earth. I was so unhappy. And I told, she said, well, what would make you happy? My wife and I were talking one day, and she said, well, what would make you happy? And I said, I want to go to film school. So I found a film school. I went for 2 years. I did that. I shot everything.
This is your 30s?
This is
Mid-30s?
38 years old.
38, okay.
Got 2 kids at home, no money. Yeah. My wife is finishing school, so we were living on borrowed time, borrowed money. I had health issues, so I just came out of that thinking to myself, what can I do? What do I really want to do to help my family? Mm-hmm. And I thought, if I go to film school, maybe I can do that at the next level. And it was really difficult for me because I had a very close friend at that time. We played in a band together, and he was my business partner. He taught me a lot of what I know about filmmaking. And he unfortunately passed away because he was going through some of that kind of like, what am I going to do with my life?
Your purpose.
His purpose, right. Because he was the most talented guy I'd ever known, ever worked with.
So at this point, you're asking yourself the question that many of us do, like, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're caught in that circle a little bit. And so fast forward to starting to work here a little bit and just who you are today.
Well, what basically, it's an interesting way that this took place because I went to film school. I shot anything I could get my hands on, and it was a conflict between me and my wife because I bought a lot of equipment on credit cards, would go out and shoot any student that wanted me to film something for them. I did to build my reel. Mm-hmm. And I was like, honey, you don't understand. I need to build my cinematic reel. I got weddings out I got, music video. I need this. This is important. This is what's going to lead to something. And it was friction. And it was like climbing that mountain, man. I knew if I just got halfway up, someone might notice me. So I get to the point where I filmed everything I get my hands on. And then I started applying for jobs because I made a choice. I got a 2-year degree, but I could keep going and get my master's degree. I could do whatever.
Sure.
I had to make this choice. My kids, my family, my wife, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I got to provide. But I also want that fulfillment. So I took a job in Toledo at Jeep doing all of their video work. And it was the bump I needed to when I applied for RealFlow. Jason College, our marketing director currently, he noticed, what did he say about it? My reel. The most cinematic stuff, because you guys were particularly looking for someone, people can do talking head lighting. They can do this stuff.
We didn't want to just record videos. We had been recording videos for the previous, 10 years. And so at this point, we were looking to tell stories.
Yeah.
And it's such a different approach.
Right.
And that's really what life is about, So as a company, it's like, we can ask ourselves that question. As an individual, you can ask yourself the question, what is the meaning of life? But what we were realizing, we were hitting our stride by answering the question, the meaning of life is that there's meaning in life, in living, in telling a story, in building a business, in sacrificing. Like, we've had deep conversations about how you feel as a man and you're trying to raise a son, right. You're trying to convert him from a boy into a man. And so just approaching life that way, I think your thinking has evolved the past 6 to 8 years for sure.
Unquestionably. I mean, to take it back to what you were just saying, you guys wanted to tell stories about the meaning of life. That appealed to me in a way that I didn't want to act too excited, but that hit me. And that was like the message I needed to hear at that time. And I had another job opportunity that was, in a lot of ways, what people would think of as a little bit better. Health insurance maybe was a little better. I don't know, but the money was better. And I knew after meeting you, after talking to Greg, this was the moment. This was the moment. This was like one of those crossroads in my life, and I took it. Mm-hmm. And I was determined to prove myself. And I felt like I did. And we had some great content that we were able to create that I'm exceptionally proud of. But my life still seemed like it was a little bit out of balance because, like everybody went through with COVID, I had kids at home that were depressed and not we moved and
not expressing themselves.
Yeah, just
like
in
every
a
other
rut,
kid,
right? And a very dangerous time, in my opinion, because of the COVID, outbreak, and then you had your kids trying to learn from home, moving to a new school, feeling alone. The pressure that I felt to be there for them was enormous. But then, you try to stay focused. You try to control the things that you can control. But for a long time, didn't feel like I could. And then the one solace I had was, what could I do to give them the financial stability I didn't have when I was growing up. And that was the pivot for me. And to be completely honest with you, I was scared to try to get into real estate because I felt like I have a good job. I don't want to take away from that, where I can't be 100% giving what I need to give there. I don't see this as a part-time opportunity. But it was the height of COVID, and so we were working remotely. So it became an opportunity where I could focus up, do my job. And then I came to you and I said, Greg, I think we should record me doing my first flip. I'm going to do a flip.
Yeah, some of your deals. And so now we're transitioning into what are you doing today? So you're still our cinematographer, our video guy. You're helping us tell stories. You're helping us create content. That's your job, if you want to call it.
Right.
You're part of the team, but you're also an investor. And so talk about what you've built as a real estate investor, how you approach real estate. You've been behind the camera for so long, for a few years before you jumped into it. You were scared to get into it, but you saw that financial freedom, that building assets. Income is important. Money, I think people can mess this up. Like, we have this vision of money solving all problems or making us happier. And typically it revolves around income. And so I think money as a survival tool, it's a tool for us to pay the bills, to pay for a place to live, to be able to, just operate independently as a family unit if you're married with kids in today's society. And then I think we have this vision of money. The next level is happiness. Like, money will give us happiness. And I remember having these conversations with you. You're just like, hey, like, we couldn't necessarily pay you what you wanted to earn doing the role that you were doing. So we talked about this, and I gave you sort of my blessing.
100%.
Jump into real estate.
Not just your blessing,
what we're doing,
but encouragement.
Yeah.
Go do this. And this is the one thing. My wife was just saying this at dinner a couple of days ago when I was telling her, how we had some sort of discussion about finance. And I don't even remember exactly the context, but she was like, that's amazing that Greg would be like, yes, Galen, go do that. You should do that. How can I help you do that? And she made the comment, you love to see people elevate. If there's people in your orbit and you can help them to elevate and become better versions of themselves, that's what you love to do. Even if that meant that Galen's not behind the camera anymore, you would be the first one to give me a kick in the butt and say, go do this.
Right.
And you did. And that changed our lives in a way that I can't even put into words.
What does your business look like now? Well, so you've fallen into Airbnbs. So you're in Northeast Ohio.
It was a journey though, because I've wholesaled a few small deals.
Yep.
But the first deal
and what size checks did you make wholesale?
Like, one was really low. It was like $3,000. One was $5,000, and the biggest one was 11. And that was
so you found properties, and then you found rehabbers or other investors in Northeast Ohio who were interested in your properties because you didn't want to take on that rehab yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So pure wholesale deal.
So there's one I locked in it at $17,000. It needed a ton of work, and as I got into it, realizing that. But I don't feel comfortable ever rehabbing a home and holding a full-time job. And also go out and I play music and stuff. So the first thing I shedded was anything I was doing on the side. Any side gigs were gone. Then I focused, because now my side thing was real estate. And then
can't get spread too thin.
You can't.
That's a kiss of death.
And that's another thing that you always help, keep that straight line for me. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't overwhelm yourself. Take your time. So one deal at a time was my philosophy. But if I had a few of those deals laying around, why not make a little money on them?
Right.
So I would refer them.
So tell us about your first Airbnb, because you had done some wholesales. You did a rehab. You bought a property in Cleveland by the hospital with the intent to flip it.
Yeah.
But you kept it as an Airbnb. So how did that unfold?
Because I kept talking to other people that were saying that there was a short-term, medium-term rentals were much more profitable. And this was right by a hospital. So I was actually thinking maybe I could get a doctor or a nurse that would rent this place and make a few extra $100 a month. And so, as it just progressed, we just decided, let's give it a shot. So we furnished it. We knew going into this that it had the potential to be what another investor friend of mine calls a unicorn. It had a double lot. It was a fenced-in yard, and it had a huge garage that had already been partially converted into an apartment mother-in-law suite. So I thought in my mind, maybe this could be a house hack kind of situation. If we finished that garage and we could rent that out to nurses and that out to doctors, then there was the potential for that to cover our mortgage and our bills. And, eventually that Airbnb can be almost running at 80% profit because there's going to be towels and, linens and costs of, snacks and things. But for the most part, what if I could get that paid for? And that's exactly what we've done. And we've been operating like that for almost 2 years.
So you're focused on cash flow and appreciation. You're getting both in this property. But how much exactly? What is it costing you, and how much are you making?
Well, the mortgage for the home itself is right around $900. Our utilities, on average, it varies, but I'd say it's about $400. So that house costs us about $1,400 a month. We're getting $1,460 from a male nurse, a travel nurse, who's been in there for now almost a year.
In the garage.
In the garage, yeah. Which is, again, like it's a house. That garage is literally paying for everything, building equity for us. And then anytime I get guests to come in there, we're keeping that cash flow. And that's about $3,000. If you average it about the year, we make about $3,000 because the slower months in the winter take away from it. But it has just been absolutely huge. That house itself paid for us the down payment that we put on the house in Sandusky. We bought another home in Sandusky as an Airbnb. And then it was carrying that place while we were doing rehabs with no problems. And we weren't taking any money out of our personal accounts. This was the business sustaining itself already with just the one house.
Right. So that's not really a passive income business. I would call the Airbnb business model, that approach to real estate investing, that's more an active income business. It's almost like you're wholesaling or you're flipping, because there's just the business element of you have to rent the property out every couple days or week. You've got to get it cleaned. You've got people moving in and out of or renting that house throughout the month. You could have 2, 3, 4 people in that house. So it's incredible that you're generating $3,000 a month. But I want to make sure that people understand the Airbnb business model is not truly a passive income business model. It's the cash flow is there, the appreciation is there. But if you want to set it up truly as a cash flow business, and I think you're getting to this point now because you're evolving from actively managing everything you're doing.
Yeah.
To, you said you were excited just last week. You told me that your wife is who has a job that you've described as just soul sucking for her.
Yeah.
She's ready to jump into your real estate investing business. And from your perspective, now she's going to move from her career to running your real estate investing business. She'll handle the day-to-day operations of the real estate investing company, which will make it mentally more passive for you. But I think talk about that transition. How'd you make that decision?
To go back a little bit, it's important that people that are watching this, that they understand what you just said is absolutely 100% fact. This is not passive. It is a business that you have to run on a day-to-day basis. Now you can systemize it. So you build up your network, and that's a super important component that helps to ease the tension for sure. But you're always going to have those moments where someone's calling you. How many times have you walked in a room and I'm like, oh, no, you have to clean it today. I'm still running the business, but it can become super passive, especially if you use the right software to do that. Now, my wife and I have been talking for a long time about what is our ultimate goal. And we thought this was a 10-year plan. I mean, we thought it was going to take years, but now we are 3 years into doing real estate, and she is able to now leave her $80,000 a year job it's in the medical field. She's not in love with it. Like you said, she tells me all the time, it's soul sucking. It's taking the life out of her. It's very, very challenging. And she's now getting her real estate license, and she's going to also run the day-to-day of our different Airbnbs. And that is going to free, me up mentally, but also I think it's going to be more fulfilling for her. She manages a huge team now. This is nothing for her. She's got a marketing and management degree, a master's degree. So this is nothing that she can't pivot into comfortably. But it's a huge deal for us to look at the numbers on a piece of paper and go, wait a second. If we now stop rolling everything we're making in these properties back into the next deal, we absolutely can live off of the money that we're generating from these properties. It's replacing your income plus about 20 grand. So why not do that now? And then we'll figure out how to grow the business maybe a little bit slower, but her happiness has been completed, right? Isn't that the ultimate goal? Like to find that freedom that she's now finding where she doesn't have to get up in the morning and drive an hour to work. She can take her kids to do stuff. She can spend more time with the kids, more time at home. It was a huge moment for us. Huge moment for us.
And I think, Galen, you're making another transition in life that I see from the outside looking in. You've reached some level of financial freedom, and you might not think you've arrived yet, or you're at the destination, which may be accurate, but you've built an asset that's producing cash flow, that's allowing your wife to quit her job, and your net worth to increase year after year after year, and the money in your bank account just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So your income is going up, your assets are going up, you're finding purpose in providing that product to the community. But now I see a transition, and you've always been a big relationship guy. You've always been the dad who really wants to help your kids become who they were destined to be, right? And just that self-image. How can I build up that self-image, that self-confidence in my kids to really help them blossom? And if like looking at your marriage, it's almost you're envisioning yourself as the gardener and your wife as the flower. And hey, how can I take care of her? How can I help her become who she wants to be? Health. You're getting very serious about health. So why is it important now that you've reached some level of financial freedom? Why is it important for you to try to achieve more freedom in those other areas of your life?
Well, I think it's a quality of life thing for sure. But it's reclaiming time, because that's the one finite asset that we all really don't have as much control over as what we want, right? Probably none. And so for me, it's like, how do I what do I want to accomplish now with the rest of the years that I have? And we don't know what those are. And so for me, financial freedom was the first step. That's the thing that's going to give me more options later. And then working together with people like yourself, who have the artistic vision that fulfills that side of what I want to do with my life was a huge, important component. But the one thing that was never quite right for me was my health. I've had a lot of issues. We could talk about it if you want, but I already had a bad back. I already had some health issues. I wasn't the healthiest eater. And then I had an accident when we went on a trip. I fell out of a Jeep and I broke my clavicle. I separated my shoulder. I had 2 herniated discs in my neck and a concussion. And I'm still dealing with the after effects of that. And I realized really just from conversations that you and I were having that it's not just about medicine and what doctors can do for you. There's always going to be a limit to that. But I started, per your advice, researching my diet. How can I eat better? What can I do to give my body the nutrients it needs to maybe heal itself? And that's been a big component of what I'm trying to focus on now over the next few months. How do I get healthier, and how do I do it the right way? And is there a way to reduce inflammation in my body, through diet? I don't know. I'm learning, but you said there was, and I've done research and we've been looking into it together, and it's absolutely true. And I'm feeling, I did a 3-day juice fast per your advice, and I have never felt better. Honestly, the inflammation in my body after just quitting red meat, quitting dairy, quitting gluten and sugar, and doing that for 12 days, and I feel better than I felt in 10 years. Yeah.
I think we can. So a lot of biohackers, people who are crazy about their health, the supplements are very, very important. And so what I found is that a supplement stack, whatever supplements you take, they're important. They're probably going to help you. However, when you take supplements, you get maybe a false belief that they're really solving the problem, and maybe you can cheat a little bit on your diet or your exercise.
Yeah.
And I think the foundational aspect of living a healthy life is sleep, diet, and exercise. And if we look at health from physical health, we realize that physical health, if we asked 100 people if they want to be healthier, they're going to say, their vision is going to be, I want to lose some weight. I want to get in better shape. I want to have more energy, like physically, their physical appearance. And if we go 1 or 2 levels deeper, it's mental health. I think it all stems from our mental health. So if we're strong mentally, then we have an opportunity to be very strong physically. And that connector in between there is what we call environmental health. And it's everything that connects it. It's optimizing where you work. Is where you work inspiring? Like so many people go to work every day and it's soul sucking and they hate it. They can't control maybe the entire environment that they work in, but they can control their desk. They can optimize that environment to be a little bit inspired. And for sure we can do it with our house. You might not be able to build your dream house today, but you can take one room in your house and you can absolutely make that your dream room. And you can, a lot of times it's got nothing to do with really the components that goes in the room being expensive or you needing enough money to do it. It's just some ingenuity and creativity and in designing a space that is inspiring, that's motivated, that gives you energy. So I think when we look at health holistically, it's that mental health at the core. It's our environment being the connector between our mental and then our physical. And I think if we're trying to improve our physical health, our sleep, our diet, our exercise, and it's like you don't even have to get too crazy with exercise. There's some people who want to enter a bodybuilding competition or bikini competition. And that's great. Like weightlifting and advanced training regimens is going to help you do that. But like the walking project that we're developing, just walking from 1 to 3 miles a day, setting a minimum acceptable day. Like I'm going to walk at least 1 mile every day, not according to your watch, because your watch will tell you that you've walked 2, 3, 4 miles each day. We're talking about, after lunch, like being explicit, purposeful in getting outside of your home or office and walking that extra 1 to 3 miles a day. The amount of calories you burn and your metabolism just becomes more optimized. I mean, I think if we look at the human body, it's designed to be an efficient fat burning machine. When we feed it the wrong things, it's like an engine, right? If your body's an engine and you're putting not gasoline in that engine, not pure gasoline, you're adding in a whole bunch of extra stuff, it's not going to run as efficiently. So then we get frustrated with why we're not losing weight faster. Your body will sort of normalize it so itself as soon as a 3-day juice fast. If we could look inside your body, I would bet you got healthier after the 3-day juice fast.
I know for a fact I did because I got blood work done before it. And when I went to the doctor, I was thinking my triglycerides and my, cholesterol were going to be off the charts, and they were high, but they were not as high as they had been in the past where I was told I needed medication. I expected them to be so high that they were over, but they just suggested a diet.
Yeah, so, and it's cool. We're doing a 6-week health sprint within all of our companies right now where we're using an in-body machine. It's called to measure everything. It measures your height, weight, it measures your body fat, your water weight, your muscle mass, body fat as a percentage. So I think it sends this electrical current throughout your body. It can actually measure how much fat is on each arm, how much fat is on each leg. So we're using a company in Strongsville, Ohio, Recharge, who has all this incredible equipment in very affordable prices. But I think it's very important to look at where you're at, because if you have a vision of where you want to go, it's good to see that gap. It's it's good to have that target range you're shooting for, and yeah, super exciting. So we'll actually probably put another video together to talk about this health sprint.
And we've talked about that, and we are going to do that. I'm going to film the whole process, but yeah, I feel like it's the components. You want to get the financial freedom. You want to match up your mental and physical health, and that's what I'm currently more focused on, to be honest with you, than anything else right now. But as I grow, as a person, and you set goals for yourself, it's very interesting to see how those things are so in tune with each other.
Yeah. I don't think that we should compartmentalize our financial freedom, our relationships, our physical health. I mean, most people think they can only focus on one of those at a time. But I think the happiest people that I know, the healthiest people that I know, the most successful people that I know, they've got that balance. They've got that holistic viewpoint of their life. It's not just how much money's in the bank account. It's not just how healthy they are physically or how great their marriage is. It's that balance of everything. I mean, that's what we call life. I mean, it's living a beautiful life. It's waking up in the morning and being able to find the beauty in everything around you. That's the key to all this. And that's when you you truly realize that the meaning of life is, man, that there's meaning in life, in living.
So I appreciate the opportunity to talk today, but I'm interested to know, I got a question for you. What advice would you give to somebody that's just starting out, that didn't have the advantages I had?
Yeah. So how do you move into the free life? How do you start living freer in everything that you do? Have this level of financial freedom that's right for you, have great health, incredible relationships. How do you have this balance? Because I think that's going to be the key to more happiness, more peace, more joy in your life. And I think if we back up, most people would set a financial goal. They would set a health goal. They would set relationship goals. And goal setting in the traditional sense, there's been dozens of books written about why goal setting is so important. Like the servo mechanism that's in the brain is actually wired to be pointed towards a target and sort of move towards that target. But I think typically when we set a weight loss goal, we're picking a number. And you might weigh 240 right now and your goal might be 210. And we pick that number. I believe in ranges. I believe that we should set a target weight range of 210 to 220 because what that allows us to do is actually live inside of that target, right? We can't, if we achieve that goal of weight loss and we arrive at 210, that doesn't mean that we're always going to be at 210. Chances are we're going to feel great about reaching the goal. And then in a week, we're probably 216 because we've cheated a little bit because we hit our goal. So mentally, I think we got to go one level deeper. We have to figure out what we value, like having a personal value system, understanding what gives us joy. What are we interested in? What are we committed to? What are we crazy about? And then why? Like there are certain things that you're interested in. Other people, you seem to be very, very interested in health right now. And I believe you moved from interested to committed because you're taking action. We could be interested in many things, but interested people never really do anything. So I think you have to have some level of commitment. And then I've been committed to many parts of my life, like my health. I've been committed. And I've seen people who are absolutely crazy about their health, right? If you look at the carnivore diet, that's a crazy diet. Only a very small percentage of people walking the planet will be able to have the mental fortitude to just continue with that diet long term. But there are a certain percentage of people that could do it. So if you look at your life as this holistic sort of framework, you got to decide where you're going to spend your time and your energy. And you got to move from interest to at least commitment to really make an impact. And I think if you get in touch with what you value first, it's so much easier to set a goal or to set a target range in all of these key areas. So I think that's really how you do it.
So super interesting that what you're saying, and that I couldn't agree. Like I am a product of the product, and I'm very actually proud of that. Like coming to work here 8 years ago was the best decision I ever made. Because of where I'm at right now. I can't even imagine where I would be if I hadn't. I think it's super interesting, though, that point that you made, that it's commit. That's the difference between those people that when people ask me now, and I get asked all the time, how do I get into this by contractors or younger guys that are working on my sites? I want to do what you do. I want to be a real estate investor. How do I do it? You have to make that decision. You have to commit. I'm doing it. That is what I'm doing. I want to be healthy. It's the same thing across all the spectrums that you're talking about.
Yeah, you remove doubt and fear and uncertainty. I mean, you're crossing a threshold. We can be interested in many things. Many people are interested in being financially successful. Far less are actually committed to achieving it. So I think you have to cross that line. You have to realize, and for me, it's just the realization that there are these different levels of commitment. Like I know what I'm not interested in, and it's easy for me to stay away from things I'm not interested in. But I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm a creative guy, and I can get excited pretty quickly about a subject, and I can be interested in it. That means, though, that time and energy I spend on that subject is less time I have for the things that truly matter. So I'm very selective with what I choose to move from interest to commitment, and then even more selective with what I choose to be crazy about. And I think that's made all the difference in the world.
Now, fear, the reason that people usually aren't willing to go from interested to commitment is the roadblock of fear. I find it super interesting. And can you just talk about that a little bit? Like how that hurdle that most people can't get over, that is for me the thing that almost kept me and my wife from doing our first flip. 100%. was the fear.
Fear is super important. I think it's the realization that we'll always have it in our life. It's not ever gone. That concept of no fear, it's not valid. It's not real. We're always, especially if you're doing things in life, if you're attacking life, if you're living offensively, fear will always be there. So use it as energy instead of a wall. Like ride it and just realize that on the opposite side of fear is freedom. I mean, that's where freedom lives. So have the courage to make that jump from being interested in something to being committed.
And I'm the proof that that's true. I just absolutely am. And I think that another flip side of that, what you're saying about fear is interesting, but also a person, if you educate yourself, that can diminish the fear because you're packing parachutes and you're giving yourself options and lots of ways to potentially get out of a deal. If it did go one way, you've got the other options.
I think
always ways to use fear.
So I look at it as walking down the path, and you simply realize that if I take action here, here's what's likely to happen. And if I don't, here's what's likely to happen. So it's this future version of yourself. You're just playing the movie in your head a little bit, and you often realize that fear isn't what it's cracked up to be. It's not it's not this big bad boogeyman. It's just this thing that, if used properly, can actually move you faster towards your goals and towards your freedom.
You said to me one time, and it's proven to me to be 100% true, is I now embrace fear. Yeah. I wake up in the morning and I'm okay with it, and it's around me, and I give it a big hug. And I'm paraphrasing, but it is absolutely something that kept me getting out of bed in the morning when I didn't want to go and work on the flip or paint a wall or do something on my weekends. I did it.
So yeah, Galen, I think one of the beautiful things about this conversation today is it opens the door for a few more dialogues where we're going back and forth on fear, and super excited to see where you end up on this 6-week health sprint. So for now, we're going to sign off, and we hope to see you on the other side.